a few years ago, Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, and some others in Kentucky sort of got together to fight on behalf of legalizing hemp as a federal matter so Kentucky could make use of that as an agricultural crop. What is the state of that today, and what changes do you think ought to be made down the road?
Well, what Rand and Thomas and I did was actually we testified before a state Senate committee in Kentucky to get the necessary legislation in Kentucky to allow them to grow hemp, because it was also against state law to grow hemp. So we went down and testified, and it was pretty much a unique event, and got a lot of attention that the three of us would testify together. And interestingly, when we went into this committee, they said they didn't think they had the votes to do it. And when we left, it passed unanimously. And I don't think that was necessarily because our arguments were so effective. It was just that I think they saw that there was a bipartisan sentiment for this. And anyway, so Kentucky passed the law. Then the federal government had to act as well. And what the federal government did, and this was Rand working in the Senate predominantly and Mitch McConnell helping also, was they passed a pilot program authorization, basically to allow educational institutions to grow hemp for research purposes. So it was a pretty halfway, not even halfway measure in terms of ultimately legalizing hemp. But that's happened, and now a number, University of Kentucky, University of Louisville, and others are growing hemp all over the state as part of this research program.
So what is the federal role in making that process, allowing states to sort of do what they want with respect to that?
Well, I certainly believe that there should be no restrictions on growing hemp. The science is pretty clear. Hemp is not a hallucinogen and it doesn't contain the kind of narcotic effect that other forms of marijuana do.
The only argument I've heard from police is that there could be some confusion.
They say that it's hard to detect them, particularly when you're flying over them. But if you look at hemp plants versus marijuana plants, and we've looked at all the pictures, they're pretty distinct, and I don't think that would really be an issue. Hemp is used in so many different products in so many different ways. I don't want to say it's a miracle crop, but it's close to it. And the idea that we would prohibit it is just seems to me to be counterproductive and not. We're missing a big opportunity in terms of economic development. Kentucky has the perfect climate for it,
as we know, for many years of experience.
Many years of experience. So. Anyway, it's underway. I think clearly, if you look at the trends around the country, you look at Colorado, you look at Oregon, the other states that have legalized recreational use of marijuana, the idea that we would somehow prohibit hemp is just seems like so 18th century or something. But I think it's going to change. There's no question it's going to change, and it'll change pretty quickly, I think.
But because those plants are botanically similar, does federal law like the Controlled Substances Act need to be altered in order to accommodate it?
Well, I don't think there's any question about that. It does, and I think we need to reschedule marijuana as well.
Where would you put it?
Well, actually,
the president has the option of descheduling.
I think it should be descheduled. I really do. I think right now the writing's on the wall. If states want to continue to make it illegal, they can do that. But we now have this strange conflict where we have states that are actually violating federal law, and the federal government saying we're not going to enforce federal law. That just doesn't seem to be a smart policy.
Well, it's also a temporary fix, because any future Congress can say, well, now we're going to enforce federal law here, and it's not a durable. It's not something states can trust, really.
Well, that's exactly right. I certainly would say you can't trust Congress to do something that makes sense, for sure. But anyway, again, this conflict of laws seems to me to be something that is really intolerable. And so I would rather see the federal government declassify marijuana rather than go out and start enforcing the laws against these states.
There has been a little bit of pressure applied to the president because he can do that. It's within his mandate as president to decide what goes on what schedules under the DEA? Do you think that's likely?
Oh, I can see an executive order coming down on that in end of November, something like that. Yeah, I think that's one of those things that going out the door that would make a lot of sense.
And we're recording this on 4/20, which is the popular holiday, I guess, for pot smokers. And do you expect Kentucky to move ahead with some form of medical marijuana or legalizing recreational marijuana?
I think we'll be one of the last states to do recreational marijuana, although it's interesting because the joke is that it's Kentucky's largest cash crop. I don't think that's changed very much. But I think there's a great deal of bipartisan sentiment to relax the laws on medical marijuana. I think that'll happen probably next legislative session, even with a Republican Senate. I think most people understand that there is a great deal of science and humanitarianism behind allowing medical marijuana.
But even that, to the extent that it's the president's fiat to say this goes here and now it goes here and the law treats it very differently based on that, Congress has been sort of unwilling, I think, to interfere with states in the last few years. Is there going to be any move to put into law some sort of protection that basically says we're stepping down, like Congress is sort of stepping down on making this a federal law enforcement priority?
I haven't heard any of much interest in Congress for doing that. Now, there are people like my friend Steve Cohen, who on the Judiciary Committee, who would certainly like to do it. Bob Goodlatte, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, I would doubt has any interest in doing that. So the personalities probably aren't right for getting that done right now.